I wanted to talk today about the talk-feel connection. What do I mean by that? Talk, I mean the voice in our head, the verbal component of our thinking process, the one that says you're going to be late, you're gaining weight, you did that wrong, oh no, that's going to happen. And how that relates to the emotional sensation experience in your body. I want today to look at how we feel it, how we experience that, how we consciously and unconsciously put logs in that fire and create it, whatever habit patterns there are there, and to, as we look at how it's created, how we can maybe dismantle or maybe just not suffer because of it. It's kind of like some people say they want to meditate to turn off the voice in their head. Well, okay, and or it's just like the water. It's something that's happening. It's the wind. It's not something that's, creating a problem. Anybody who has been listening to me of any kind knows I'm very much into teaching about these three modalities of our experience. We have our five senses and our thought process, and my teacher Shinzen Young puts them into three modalities of visual, auditory, and somatic. And that's very helpful. It's like three primary colors that create everything. Create your sense of self, create who you are, what you want. And it all gets down to there's some aspect of it that's visual. There's visual meaning I'm seeing sights in the world. Visual means I have a mental picture in my head. That's part of the thinking process. Auditory means I'm hearing the water. Auditory means that's the voice in my head, or other people's voices in my head, or that tune I can't stop singing. Somatic would be the body. Could be I'm feeling my hand hit my leg. It can be I'm clenched with fear of, oh my God, what's going to happen? So there's these three modalities, and I teach from these a lot. I think they're key. Learning to get distinction between the three of them at any given moment, that alone can take suffering from a multiplicative overwhelm to just an additive, oh yeah, at any given moment I'll walk down the street, and if there's anything going on, I go, okay, what am I seeing? What am I hearing? What's in the body? I just go see, hear, feel, see, hear, feel. Just at any given moment, it's kind of like, I just got this image for the first time, but when you have that, we used to get these as kids where you get coins and they fall down into the slots, and I always thought, I've watched that for hours, just the coins. Oh, the quarters knew to go in that slot and the dimes knew to go in that slot. It's kind of like that. It's letting your experience kind of click into these slots. And it doesn't decrease, one person said the other day, but doesn't that take away the beauty of it all? And not at all. In fact, it makes your experience richer, because there's a lot that's happening that you're not aware of in any given moment. How you keep track of these three separate is helpful when you're aware of where the spatial locations of where they arise. And if you've worked with me before, I spend a lot of time going into that. Visual is forward, right? You're not singing back there, you're seeing in front. When you see the image in your head, it's usually for most people here. Sound, our ears hear out, kind of like that. On each side, it's huge sound out. Inside is usually inside the head, around the ears, somewhere in here is where people hear the voice in their head. We'll be working with that one today, because that's a hot one. And that's why I'm going right for it today. It's one of the biggest sources of suffering, that talk-feel connection. And the body, we're all pretty good with that. We all pretty much know that's the body and that isn't. Although at a certain point in your experience, it may get to where there really is no difference between me and that or you or anything. But for now, we're going to use the boundaries of our skin as being the body. Everything I've presented for the most part here, and what most meditation teachers present, is putting your awareness on one thing and letting everything else be in the background. And if your attention wanders, you kindly, without judgment, bring it back. Today, I'm going to ease the difficulty of the dive a little bit. Don't worry, don't worry. If you have little sensations of anxiety coming up when I said that. We're going to keep two in awareness at the same time. Now, it doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, I have to keep, there'll be a moving back and forth. I want you to see the relationship between two things. So that when talk is happening, you can have talk and you can go, okay, did something just happen and feel when that talk arose? Just so it'll be a spreading of awareness where you're kind of keeping two things, or you might have, maybe there's talk going on and you can notice what is the feel that's driving it. And when you can just see it and notice it, it doesn't have the same effect on you, and it doesn't unconsciously distort your perception and behavior, and you don't end up, I don't know, just yelling at someone, or, you know, what do we do? Put golf clubs in their windshield or something, you know, whatever it is. You know, or I had the one time where a guy came up in a car passing. He yelled at me. I actually wasn't doing anything wrong, but he was upset and just yelled at me, and I felt myself go, you know, and I felt the talk of what I would, and I just watched that arise and let it kind of explode and go down, and I just kind of noticed what he did, how that felt, what my talk did, how my face flushed. It went down, he left, and because I watched it, after he left, I remember the first thing that when I let it rise and pass was, he must be really having a bad day. You know? Or, you know, there was space for compassion. There's only so much real estate in consciousness. And when it gets filled, that's why when emotions fill it, the part of your brain that has IQ gets small. Right? So you don't tend to do smart things when you're really emotional, right? So it's kind of, and meditation is based on that. You've only got so much awareness here. Okay, I'm going to fill it with focusing on this, right? So it's how are we choosing to spend? If you have $100, what are you going to buy with it? You've got 100 units of consciousness. What are you going to put in there, right? Or where are you going to choose to focus? So today we're going to work with the two spaces. That's where it gets juicy. That's where we see the wiring, how the wiring's hooked up. That's where we see the relationship, the wiring, the sequence. There will be sequences you have that every time this happens, that happens after it. That you don't notice, because that just always is. But when you know that every time this happens, that happens after it, that's your wiring connection. That happens, then you looked, okay, every time that happens, the mouse comes out of the mouse hole. So this happens, then you look to the mouse hole and you see the mouse come out, then it doesn't surprise you or take you off guard or trip you, right? Like if you're watching the waves come in and you see the wave come in, it doesn't surprise you and knock you over. So that's what I want to work today with the two spaces. And the prime directive here is to not interfere. That's equanimity. You're not trying to control your experience. You're not trying to resist it. You're not trying to grasp and make, that's a good one, that's a bad one. You're just noticing whatever anything is in any direction, any movement, anything wants to take, you let it. If it wants to expand, you let it. It's like I think of a bullfighter lifting the cape and letting the bull go through. Just let it go through. Or I used to say giving someone the keys to the house and letting it have a party. You know, let the sensations just have a party, right? And or if it wants to contract, you know, we go, oh, that hurts. I don't want it. Let it. Just get out of the way and let it move however it wants to move. That may not have been my most coherent presentation, but did that make sense? Does anyone have a question about that? Okay, I was doing it in a condensed period of time here. But that's what we're going to do. So we're going to play.